Hi, I hope this finds you well. So I'm going to bring this out of Ecclesiastes 3, where there's that fabulous passage about there being a time for everything. For everything there's a season, a time for every activity under heaven, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to harvest, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to tear down and a time to build up, a time to cry and a time to laugh, a time to grieve and a time to dance, a time to scatter stones and a time to gather stones, a time to embrace and a time to turn away, a time to search and a time to quit searching, a time to keep and a time to throw away, a time to tear and a time to mend, a time to be quiet and a time to speak, a time to love and a time to hate, a time for war and a time for peace. And then he goes on to say, what do people really get for all their hard work? I've seen the burden God has placed on us all. Yet, God has made everything beautiful for its own time. He has planted eternity in the human heart, but even so, people cannot see the whole scope of God's work from beginning to end. And basically what I wanted to share with you is something that God's been talking to me about, and it is about that whole thing of time, how to use time wisely and how to avoid busyness, what it means to be busy and when is there a good part of being busy and what does that mean for me personally. And I can remember when all of this started in the first lockdown, how I so enjoyed not being busy. I so enjoyed not having my diary. And there was an element, if I didn't feel guilty for not being busy, which that was a whole issue in itself. And then time has gone on and, God's he's been speaking to me about a lot and, dealing with a lot of stuff in me, and there's been some really, really difficult times and there's been some times of great joy. But here we are. We're on this threshold of a new season. Yesterday, Boris announced that it was going to be Freedom Day on July the 19th. And it's been so interesting seeing how people have reacted and responded to that according to their perspective of what the previous year and a bit has looked like. So those that have been shielding and have been vulnerable, they're looking at it maybe with some trepidation as to what it's going to look like now that masks are not going to be mandatory, etc. Businesses that really depend on this new freedom, they are feeling happier because they've been given the green light. There's lots of different perspectives. But, I remember back at the beginning of all of this, there was a lot of conversation throughout, the church generally and with Christians about what God was saying in that and what it was all going to look like after this. And there was a lot that was being spoken about, and, God is talking to a lot of us about, what the new normal is going to look like, and what was it that he wanted us to lay down, and what was it that he was going to change and want us moving into. What was he healing us of that, we could then take into the future and into what he was going to do. Because at the end of the day, God always gets the victory. If the enemy was trying to use this for his own ends, God will turn it around. There is still going to be some amazing stuff. There already has been some amazing stuff that has come out of this. We've seen so many answers to prayer and there's lots of testimonies. But the danger there is now that we can kind of revert. Some of what we have learnt, some of what that connection that we've built up with God, the reconnecting, the time that we've had with him, it can start to be buried in busyness. And I believe God is challenging us now in all of the other stuff that is challenging, but he wants, I sense he's asking us to think about how we spend our time in coming days, weeks and months. Do we go back to being busy, to filling up our diaries, to volunteering, whatever, are we picking up things again that he's actually asked us to lay down? Because we need to fill in the void, we need to fill in the gap. What was it he was talking to you about birthing in you that, you really want to do, but, is there an element of confidence and you're just going to revert back into the status quo rather than actually taking that bold step of faith into what it is that God is birthing in you? How are you going to transfer that time into this time? Because each season has its beauty. Each time has its beauty. And what he's taught you in previous seasons and at previous times, he can use at this moment. But it's about devoting our time to God. It's about using our time wisely and asking him how we should apportion our time rather than rushing into the busyness. Don't allow what God has been speaking to you about to be buried in the noise of busyness. Hope you have a good day.